Hey there, I'm krowz. I got third place at the Bologna Regional Qualifier with Irelia, also earning me the Best of Irelia medal card. A lot of people asked me to make a video, and it took a little bit longer than I would have wanted it to. I am still exhausted. It's Thursday at the time of recording. It took me a while to even do anything, really. So I am getting to it because I do think it would be a good thing to get this out before the main event for Vegas starts, in case people want to make last minute changes or need a better understanding of how I approach deck building. I might have to make a few other videos in case I forget anything, because again, I'm not like 100% still, but I should be good to go for explaining my card choices, and then I'll probably jump into the cards that didn't make the cut, and then I think that'll be it for this video. We'll see. I'll just kind of wing it, see what happens. So let's start by quickly going over why you might want to play Irelia, where I think its strengths lie. There are probably three main things. One is I think the deck is extremely good from ahead. So if you're winning, it's going to be very difficult for your opponent to climb back into the game. So it has very high snowballing. So you're going to push your opponent deeper and deeper into the hole and probably just close out the game quickly if you are ahead with Irelia on the board, for example. It also has great comeback mechanics like Draven, so you're never truly out of the game except for some very specific scenarios, but you can always find a way back usually if you manage your runes well. The third point is I think it puts a lot of mental pressure on your opponent because of the way you present a bunch of runes or a bunch of mana open, a bunch of energy in this game I think it's called. Your opponent has a lot more to think about than you do. Usually what you have to do is just calculate like the risk reward for attacking into like potential rebukes and also doing math with your spells to break through opponent's hold. So it is a lot more exhausting on your opponents to have to play around a lot of different spells that you could have, all doing very different things, to be honest. Like Ride the Wind specifically is a very difficult card to play around. They have to weigh the risk reward of using removal spells or rebuke because of not so fast, but I'm kind of jumping the gun here. I'm kind of going over the cards already. So I'll just keep it there for my quick sales pitch on why you might want to play Irelia. But yeah, we'll start with battlefields. I have a little bit of tech to share. So let's start things off with the Dreaming Tree, which is the battlefield I usually open with. I'll go into the situations where I don't open with Dreaming Tree in a second. But yeah, Dreaming Tree, it is our most powerful battlefield. It is the one where you're going to always have cards in your hand to be able to keep up the pressure. You're never going to run out because you're always going to be able to, use a spell, maybe even on your turn and on your opponent's turn, drawing 2 cards overall until your turn comes back. So that's very, very, very strong. And sure, your opponents can use it, but usually they can use it less well than you do, just because of the amount of buff spells we're playing and target spells, even with like Fighter Flooding your own units or Ride the Winding your own units. Well, I guess you can only Ride the Wind your own units, but anyways. So yeah, drawing a lot of cards, really good for this deck. That's usually how you bury your opponents, by just having so many buffs all the time, so much interaction that they can't deal with it. So that will be it for Dreaming Tree. Then there's Obelisk of Power, which is my going first battlefield after game 1. So if I know I'm going first, I will open with Obelisk of Power. This is for a very specific reason. It's because we have Sneaky Deckhand in the main deck. And some people have it in the sideboard. That's also fine, I guess. But I'll explain why I like it in the main deck later. So Sneaky Deckhand, if you're going first and you play it, your opponent cannot prevent you from scoring 1 point. And most likely cannot prevent you from scoring the second point for the hold. So you're going to start off at 2 points to your opponent's 0. And trust me, that is a situation that is extremely difficult for most decks to come back from. So I would almost argue that's kind of like a free win. I'm not going to lie. That's how it's felt for me at least. And I think a lot of people playing Obelisk going first with Sneaky would agree with that. So there's the Obelisk of Power. Then we have Sunken Temple for my go second battlefield, so when I know my opponent's going to go first. Sunken Temple is really, really good. A lot of decks cannot utilize its Conquer effect, where you need to be mighty. So if a unit conquers and it's mighty, you can pay 1 to draw a card. Again, card draw really important for the deck. And since some decks cannot utilize this, it's just very, very good. Even the decks that can utilize it might not want to spend the 1 rune or 1 energy to draw a card in some situations because they might need to hold some mana up. So most of the time benefits you more than your opponents. Now for the tech of when I might not want to play Dreaming Tree on the first game. That's when I know my opponent is also playing Obelisk of Power. It's usually just a guess because obviously it's not open deck list until top 8. So you're going to have to make a guess. Most of the Draven lists are playing Obelisk. And I think Ezreal plays Obelisk, Kai'Sa plays Obelisk. So when you know that that's happening, you can open with Obelisk. Now the reason you want to do this is so every single game of that match, of that best of 3, you will be starting with at least 3 runes. So your game 1, you either start with 3 going first, or you lose the die roll and you start with 4, which is also totally fine because we have Stellacorn on turn 1 potentially, or even Sneaky plus protect it with an On Guard or Defiant Dance. Then in game 2, if you win, they will play their Obelisk because they want to use it when they're going second. So again, you're going to be starting at 3 runes. You'll be able to Sneaky deck in on turn 1. As I mentioned, that is an extremely backbreaking play for every single deck that you'll be facing. And then in game 3, you'll naturally be going seconds, which means you're going to start with 3 runes and have Sneaky Deckhand on turn 1 available. Now that's going to do it for battlefields. Of course, this tech of Obelisk can kind of backfire where your opponent knows you're going to open with Obelisk because they have Obelisk, and then they play Obelisk on game 1. So you have a double Obelisk game, which honestly still benefits you. So even in that situation, I still think you're favored. It's just that when you're going to be going first in game 2 or 3, you're going to start on 2 runes, which is a little bit more difficult since we have less plays on turn 1. Moving on to the main deck, we have our chosen champion, Irelia Fervent. This card is absolutely broken. It is basically always a 5 might unit, except on if you leave her on a battlefield, and obviously she's going to be exhausted. So during your turn, she's always a 5, at least, because of the Awaken, so she readies herself. And I guess you can ready her on your opponent's turn as well sometimes. I've done that quite a bit. That's something you always have to think about that opponents don't think about, is the fact that if you buff Irelia and she's holding a battlefield and they're attacking into it, they have to calculate +1 from the legend actually readying her in a pinch, because all you have to do is spend a power to basically get +1. So if they do their math wrong and they're only calculating your buff spells, they might miss that +1 extra might from the ready and get blown out. So that's been really clutch for me. I've done this a lot of times on defense, where just the +1 actually makes a huge difference, either allowing me to trade with my opponent's attack or just go over. And usually trading is in your favor since you have things like Guardian Angel to save your Irelia. So that's something to keep in mind. Not much else to say. Deflect is extremely broken on this unit, honestly. I think it's completely crazy. So many games where opponents have to break a lot of runes just for their spell to just get countered, or you buff out of range of a damage spell, for example. So really good card. Obviously can't play the deck without it. On Guard is our first buff spell. This card is incredible. It is so good to have a 1 mana buff spell that doesn't cost power, because, I mean, obviously the Defiant Dance is more powerful, but sometimes you just don't want to break runes and you don't need the extra might that the Defiant Dance brings to the table. But yeah, On Guard, it's a reaction, and it basically gives +2 because we're only attacking with 1 or defending with 1 unit. So if it's alone, it gets an additional +1. So +2, and when you target Irelia, that's +3. It is such a good card, and I don't really understand why you wouldn't play 3. I have found so many spots where every time I have an On Guard in hand, I am so happy to have it. I would not want anything else. So it's very difficult for me to imagine playing with 2. I know there are some decks that play with 2, but maybe since they're playing a slightly different list, it's okay. Like maybe they're the 2-drop version, the more heavy 2-drop version that plays like the 3 Lonely Poro, the 3 Tide Turner, might get away with 2. I'm not sure what the reasoning is, but who knows. Then we have Charm. Charm is very, very good. It's a 1 mana removal spell, basically, because you're going to be charming an enemy unit into a battlefield. And it also has insane synergy with Draven, which on combat win scores you a point. So if your opponent's decide to not hold a battlefield, you can just charm their unit in and get the points. So very powerful to have a removal spell this cheap. It almost always kills just about anything because you can always buff your Irelia to kill that unit. And, scoring points with Draven is huge. And also, people forget, but this has been very clutch for me as well in terms of the final turn in the game where I'm at 6 and I need to conquer to 8. And they're holding both battlefields, or maybe they're holding a single battlefield with a lot of things. You can just charm a unit out of their battlefield to their base. So this acts as a cheap fight or flight, obviously it recycles, but during the last turn of the game, you do not care about that. So very clutch card, very flexible, and it's really nice to have a removal spell in this deck, basically, that hits base, quote unquote. But obviously it has some restrictions where you actually need a unit that's strong enough to kill their unit. So sometimes if you only have Stellar Corn, it will not be able to act as a removal spell. Anyways, moving on to a completely broken signature spell, but I guess that's what signature spells should be, I think. Reaction, 1 in a power, +2, and give another unit -2. So with Irelia, that's a 5 might swing. So this can basically be seen as punch first, but you're paying 1 less rune. You're paying 1 less recycle for it, and it's a reaction. So yeah, Giga Broken, I mean, there's not much to say about this card. It's completely busted. I don't know. So many situations where you can screw your opponent over with just a 1 mana swing card like this, or they have to respect it. And sometimes you don't have it and they respect it. And that's a win as well for you. So really good card. Very scary for your opponents to think about. 2 Defy. I actually started with 1 Defy in the main deck. And then I started playing... Oh, sorry, I'm clicking on and off. I'll try not to do that. So I started with 1. And then I started facing a bunch of Cold a Week decks. A bunch of Called Shot decks. So the Miracles of the world. And I was like, there is no way I can play 1 Defy main. There's no way. Because Cold a Week is a devastating spell for you. And not being able to counter it because it doesn't target with Not So Fast is a big problem. And honestly, it convinced me that this also hits Called Shot, which I think is actually a good spell to counter against Miracles. You should probably be countering Called Shot depending on how many cards they already have in hand. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but if you can afford to sacrifice a rune for the recycle, you probably should counter it, especially early when they don't have that many cards. But yeah, that's just a quick tip there. So Defy, very clutch, very, very good in the mirror match as well. So that was another factor. There are a lot of factors for, playing more Defies. I would not be surprised if people end up playing 3 Defies, especially since Vex Ezreal is a thing now. You really want to counter Called Shots against them, but usually they're going to play the Called Shots. Well, not usually, actually. It's like 50% of the time, or maybe less. I haven't played against Vex Ezreal much. I honestly have not touched a game in 3 days. Not going to lie. So, but yeah, if you can get their Called Shots against Ezreal, could be really clutch. They also have a few things you might want to defy, like the -4s and stuff, or even hard bargain in some situations. But yeah, very versatile card, very powerful card. 2 minimum, I would say. Discipline. I mean, we know what this does. +2 draw card. Just so good. Paying the extra 1 mana is totally fine because you get the card draw. It acts as our 9th buff, which honestly, sometimes I feel like I want another buff. Sometimes I feel like I want a 10th copy of a buff, but there really isn't much I felt like playing. I tried Feral Strength. Not very impressive card, so is what it is. I wouldn't even know what to cut, really. But yeah, this card's really good. Reaction as well, obviously. And the draw card is clutch. As I mentioned, card draw is pivotal for this deck, and the fact that it replaces itself makes it so much better. Especially against Bryn here, because there are spots where people will play Bryn here, which says you cannot play spells anymore. So it's a trigger, goes on the stack, then you can react, and then you can't play spells during that turn anymore. And if you have Discipline, it's really good because sometimes you don't want to commit like a Defiant Dance or an On Guard, because most of the time, or not most of the time, sometimes, let's say 50% of the time they're playing Burn here, they're not going to win from it immediately, but they just want you to waste your buffs, and then they're just going to attack the other side. So having Discipline in hand at that moment to just like throw out is really nice because it replaces itself. So that's been a thing as well. Fight or Flight, I've seen lists with 2. I don't really understand. I think this card is too good. The fact that you can hide it is extremely powerful. It's kind of like a flash. This is why I don't play flash in the main deck, is I kind of see it as a flash in the situations where I want flash, where I'm playing around I'm holding a battlefield with Irelia, for example, and I'm playing around Rebuke. I'll just hide a Fight or Flight to make sure that if they try to Rebuke her on offense, I can just react with Fight or Flight, bring my Irelia back to base, and dodge the Rebuke. Same thing for playing against Bryn here. Flash is really good as well, because if they can't win during that turn, you just flash your Irelia out, for example, and then the Bryn here kind of doesn't do much. And I can do that as well with hiding Fight or Flight. Sure, it's a little bit more costly because it does cost me a rune. Sometimes it's actually better because I won't have the mana to hold up flash. But this is really sick. The fact that it can push out your opponent's stuff for a winning attack is huge as well, as I mentioned with Charm. So super flexible, the fact that it can hit your own stuff. Very, very, very strong with Stellacorn. Sometimes I'll just go like Stellacorn attack, hide Fight or Flight, like tap out for Irelia or something. And then you have a protected Stellacorn. If they try to attack in, you go back, you draw another card. I don't know, Fight or Flight, just too versatile, too good. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I mean, yeah, great card. Guardian Angel, this is going to be your crucial ability to protect Irelia in a lot of matchups. This is going to be better than Zhonya's, so that's why I have 3 Guardian Angel, 1 Zhonya's. This is basically acting as the 4th Guardian Angel. And it's just really good to be able to target her with the equip. So you get +1 for targeting, and you just get +1 passive might, which is great. So those 2 things together make Irelia a bigger threat on offense and protects Irelia from dying to random stuff. Like if your opponent goes way over her might, and you're just like, okay, I'll just go back to base, lose my Guardian Angel, that's fine. Save Irelia. So not much to say about it. Really good card. Now Poro, this was a last minute addition to the deck, and it was because, it was for 2 reasons. One is because one of my testing partners was playing Rek'Sai, and that matchup was really bad. So if I had to describe my initial version of the list, I probably should have opened with this, but I am a little bit tired, so forgive me for that. My initial version of this list was actually more of a Protect Irelia deck. So it had no Sneaky Deckhand, it had no Lonely Poro, and the only creatures it had were the 3 Stellacorns and the Draven, and then I just had like 3 Zhonyas and stuff like that. Actually, no, I didn't even have 3 Zhonyas. I think I had like 2 Zhonyas, and then probably like 3rd Ride the Wind. I don't remember exactly. There were a lot of like other cards I was testing, like the Siren and stuff like that at the time. I'll talk about that later. But yeah, I slowly moved towards Sneaky Deckhand first. So this was the 2nd iteration of the list, was just playing Sneaky in the main deck. And then I moved to 2 additional 2-drops with Lonely Poro. So against Rek'Sai, I just wanted an extra unit that can come out early, another unit that can get sacrificed if my opponent plays Cold a Week. So I'd be able to draw and also not have to sacrifice a Guardian Angel or something to save Irelia, or sometimes I don't even have Guardian Angel, and Irelia would just die to Cold. So Lonely Poro, really clutch. Turn 1 play in case you do not have access to an extra rune from Obelisk. So against matchups where they don't have it, actually no, because you would open with Obelisk. But yeah, game 1 you would not have an extra rune. So if you win the die roll, you open with Dreaming Tree, and you need something to play on turn 1. Poro helps with that. I was really happy. So this was the 2nd reason. The 2nd reason was that I wanted 6 2-cost plays, which I think brings my odds of seeing one on turn 1 to 72% or something. Honestly, wouldn't be mad about playing another one or another Zhonya's just to have another play with 2 runes open on turn 1. But I just couldn't really find the space, and it really felt like I couldn't cut any other. When you look at this, like, I had no idea what to cut, so I was like, I'll just take those odds, and it worked out. So thankfully, luck was in my favor on that sense. So I usually had it when I was going first with 2 runes, so, or I had a Guardian Angel, so pretty lucky there. Sonya's Hourglass. Actually, I didn't describe this, but hopefully you guys know what the cards do. Again, I'm a little bit tired, so I'm not doing this as well as I should. But Sonya's Hourglass. Sonya's Hourglass, really good card. The reason I want a copy of this as well, not only because it's the 4th Guardian Angel, but also because it has hidden. And people are usually going to respect Fight or Flight as a hidden card. So I really wanted that mix-up, which other deck lists of Irelia have Tide Turner, for example. They can mix that up with Tide Turner. Although I think your opponent's going to play around Tide Turner a little bit more because you're going to have 3 copies, whereas Zonyas, they usually do not play around. Like they'll think it's Fight or Flight in my list, for example. Well, I guess they could think it's Tide Turner because they don't know my list. But that benefits me as well. So if they think this is a Tide Turner, that's fine. So yeah, there are a lot of situations where I just either play out the Zonyas because it's only 2, it only costs 2 to save Irelia, or I just hide it and, you know, bluff a Fight or Flight. Or sometimes I have to hide it because I'm tapped out. That's also happened quite a bit. Yeah, keep in mind that your opponent is usually afraid of your best possible spell. Sometimes they'll be like, I can't play around this, I'm just going in. But most of the time, they're going to think about the worst case scenario. So that's why hidden cards are so good in this game, because you can bluff pretty heavily. Not so fast. Now, I see people playing 2 copies of this card, and I would say that is probably not great unless you are playing Flash main deck. And even then, I would still argue you probably should have 3 not so fast. So this counters a spell or ability that chooses a friendly gear or unit. And the reason I wanted 3, maybe it's pretty obvious to most of you, it's because of the card Rebuke. I have 1 in my sideboard. I have 2 in my sideboard. Return a unit at a battlefield to its owner's hand. This is probably the most backbreaking spell outside of Cold a Week. Arguably it's worse than Cold a Week. Because Cold a Week, I have so many ways to like dodge it, whereas this I don't have many ways. Like the Guardian Angels don't protect you. I need not so fast. So yeah. Essentially, if they try to rebuke you and you don't have not so fast, probably lost the game. That's what happens most of the time. Sometimes you can come back, but it is so backbreaking. Sure, they have to play the deflect cost for Irelia, but most of the decks playing Rebuke are extremely mana efficient. It's either other Irelias, or like Ezreal, or a Draven. I mean, Draven does not care at all about breaking 3 runes, I'm not going to lie. They have Treasure Hunter, they have access to gold, and yeah, it's pretty backbreaking if you cannot counter that spell. So I do not like the idea of not playing 3. But I could kind of see it again if you have flashes, maybe like multiple flashes in the deck. At least 1 to compensate, but still, my game plan with this deck is to, I guess I didn't go over that either, but it's so random. Maybe I'll go into that in a separate, like after we go over the cards, so I can make a category so people can jump to that instead of it being like in the middle. Let's go over that later. But essentially, it plays into my strategy, basically, is what I'll say. And we'll go into that strategy later. Ride the Winds. Had 3 copies, went down to 2. This was one of the cards that... so, yeah, action, move, unit, ready. I don't know if I should describe the cards or not. This was one of the cards that I was really agonizing over, whether or not to have 3. I think the card is completely broken. I think scoring on your opponent's turn is disgusting, and potentially even killing their unit that's attacking into another battlefield. You ride the wind across, you kill it, and you conquer. So really, really broken card. Kind of difficult. Nah, actually, I would not say it's difficult to play around, but it kind of is. It kind of is, right? Sometimes your opponent's going to be like, I can't play around this. Like, sometimes they will not be able to play around it. So, really good card. But unfortunately, I couldn't find the slots for the Poro. This was one of them, basically. So this got converted into a Poro. And there are definitely positions where you don't really want to have Ride the Wind. It's the positions where you're behind on points and you're really struggling to kind of claw your way back. Sometimes it can help, obviously, from scoring on your opponent's turn, but usually you don't have the luxury of doing that. You really have to fight with all your runes, with all your mana on your turn, for example, to kind of claw your way back. Because this deck has pretty rough rune economy, you're going to be breaking runes. That's one of the skills you're going to have to learn with Irelia, is you want to make sure you're not sacrificing too many runes, so you always have a way to have a big turn to come back into the game in case something bad's happened. So yeah, Ride the Wind, broken card. Couldn't really justify playing 3 just because I wanted other things more to make the deck more consistent, essentially. Less of a blowout and more consistent. This card's also really good with Stellacorn. This comes up kind of rarely because your opponent has to be controlling like 0 battlefields, or you have to go in, fight on the one Stellacorn's attacking, like you buffer, and then you Ride the Wind over, and you bring her back to base. Like that interaction of untap, Stellacorn goes in, draws a card, conquers, Ride the Wind, draws a card, conquers, ready from Ride the Wind, comes back to base, draws a card, draw 3 cards, get 2 points. It does come up. It's a little bit on the rarer side, but it does happen. And that is very, very strong as well. So honestly, just really good card. Also allows you to, oh, okay, one more interaction I just remembered. Very important against Draven. Against Draven, they might have a card called Overzealous Fan. I won't bring it up, but yeah, it's a 2 cost unit, 2 might. When it defends, you may kill it, and if you kill the Overzealous Fans, they may kill it. So they sacrifice it, pushes your unit back to base. And that's a defense trigger, so that's before you can play any action. So what's going to happen here, let's imagine a scenario. You have Irelia, you're attacking into like a Fan plus a Draven plus like something else. You go in, they sacrifice Fan, they pay deflect costs, they move Irelia back to your base. We are still in Showdown. The Showdown has not ended. You can play an action. You can Ride the Wind back in to the battlefield before the Showdown ends. So you have action, bring Irelia back in. They do not, I do not think Draven gets another defense trigger. That's something I'm not 100% sure about. Like the red Draven, assuming they already paid or they already made their choice. Now that I think about it, I think they have to make their choice before they even know if you're going to be able to Ride the Wind. So they might actually decline. No, I think it would trigger again because I'm attacking again. Actually, this is, I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty good on the rules, but now that I thought about that situation, maybe it's just because I'm tired. I can't even be bothered to think about it. Somebody will answer that question. But I do know they will not win combat because we're still in Showdown. I rather win back in. It's the same Showdown. So essentially you dodge a free card for Draven. Like they won't draw because you're still in the same Showdown. Moving on, we have 3 Boots of Swiftness. Now, a lot of people are not a fan of the 3 copies of Boots. I understand that. I kind of do, but the way I wanted to play the deck really requires 3 Boots of Swiftness. So my general idea, when I approach Irelia, at least with this, any list similar to this, or this list specifically, is that you're probably going to be behind on points unless you open Sneaky Deck in. And even in a scenario where you're ahead, Boots is really good. So it's a win more card, but also allows you to come back. I'll explain that in a second. So you're going to need to hold battlefields with this deck, with Irelia. I think the way I want to play it is I want to hold, because that way I deny my opponents a point, because they will probably not be able to conquer the Irelia side, so they'll only conquer the other side. So they'll gain 1 point, then I'll hold, and then I want to easily be able to access the other side, while also making sure my Irelia gains might. So this is the perfect card, basically. The ganking, the Boots of Swiftness equip costs, sure, it costs a power, but if you think about it, some of the other options you might have to conquer the other side without boots might spend the power for the Irelia Legend to ready Irelia to go to the other side. That's not the case if you have like Tide Turner or Siren, but you know, it could happen. But that's not the main reason. The main reason is just because this gives +2. And +2 has been absolutely pivotal for a lot of different situations. One, it'll target Irelia, so she'll get +1 from target, then +2 from the boots. It just makes Irelia a lot more powerful without you spending buffs. So you'll equip boots on your turn, you'll gank to the other side, and then your hold is even more powerful, right? Because the boots just buffs her by 2. So she'll be a 6 on defense. Most of the time, even a 7 with the Guardian Angel as well. So you just have more base stats to represent. And since I want to hold, that's just really good. So they have to commit more into my Irelia side than they would if I just had a Guardian Angel. So they have to commit more, and then you can still buff your way out of it. So it's just fully beneficial. There were games as well where I played Sneaky Deccan on turn 1, then Boots, and ganked to the other side with Sneaky. Now those are against like more controlling matchups, and then like charmed their unit as something. So they would have like no, I would be going first, right? I go first, 3 runes with Obelisk. Sneaky, they play a unit, Boots of Swiftness, gank, charm. They have like no units. I have a Sneaky with Boots on, might be able to gank to the other side next turn. So it is a very, very good card from ahead, and also a very good card from behind, but not too far behind because obviously it costs 3, so 3 is quite a lot. It's honestly quite a lot. But I also like that this kind of sticks around, so if your unit dies, you have a way to quickly get Irelia out, assuming the unit that died is not Irelia, obviously. So if you, and then you bust out the Irelia from your champ zone, and then you equip with Boots, and you ready with the Legend, allowing you to attack for 8 might. So +2 from Boots, 1 for choosing Irelia for the equip, 1 for the ready. So, I don't know. The reason I'm playing 3, because I guess I didn't address this yet, is because I want to see this every single game. That's how good it is in my mind. In my mind, the games where I don't see Boots are much more difficult than the games where I see Boots. And if I see a second copy, honestly, it's never been that bad. Like, it is expensive, but again, it acts as a might bonus. And so it kind of acts as a buff, right? Like another buff, but it stays around. So in that way, it's better. But then it costs extra. So in that way, it's worse. There are upsides and downsides, but it's never a dead card. Like, it will never be a dead card. So if you compare Boots of Swiftness to like Arena Bar that Set was playing, I would say Arena Bar is more of a dead card, the second copy, than Boots of Swiftness is. And it's like by far, I think, as well. Like, I think the difference is really huge. I've had games where I had Irelia and 2 Boots of Swiftness equipped, and that was totally fine. Like, the base might on Irelia was so high, ganking back and forth. It's mostly because, yeah, I don't have to commit more, right? I commit up front for the Boots, and then the unit just has ganking. So I never have to commit more resources to move my unit from one side of the battlefield to the other. That and the static might. So a little bit of a ramble on that. I don't know if it was clear or not. Who knows? Whatever. Sneaky Deckhand. Card's broken. It's probably the reason I made it so far, I think. I just think you should play this main deck. Because if you're going second, this will still be your best play, I think, on turn 1. Except against very specific decks like maybe Ezreal. Against Rek'Sai, it's not great. Decks that can punish you for tapping out for this. Like Rek'Sai can just accelerate their champ Rek'Sai. And Ezreal, if they have a Raven Bloom student, can go over it. For example, those are like weird examples. I think there are probably other ones where your opponent might have a turn 1 play that can run it over. But yeah, against a lot of decks in the meta, this will still be your best play on turn 1. And sometimes, and against many decks that don't play very aggressively either, they might just have a gear on turn 1, like in the mirror match, for example. Oh yeah, this was one thing I didn't mention for Obelisk. I don't open with Obelisk in the mirror match because we were both trying to play Obelisk when we're going first. So yeah, just saying that. Sneaky Deckhand. Yeah. So the reason I haven't main deck is also because of the Obelisk a trick where against Draven, if I win die roll, well, I'm opening Obelisk, right? I win die roll, I start with 3, I sneaky, game's pretty much over on the spot. So essentially gives you that little bit of extra punch against the decks with Obelisk where you're going to be opening Obelisk, and it gives you that extra punch when you lose the die roll. This is also one of the reasons. Shit, I should have mentioned that at the start. Okay. Yeah, okay. So another reason you might want to play this deck is because the die roll does not matter. It does, but it doesn't really matter. This is the type of deck that does not care if it's going first or second, really. Every time I lose a die roll, I'm like, okay, whatever. I can start on 3, I can sneaky turn 1, I can boots turn 1. Like, going second just gives you more turn 1 plays, and you're curving into Irelia faster. So if I open Guardian Angel with 3 runes, I'm going second, turn 1 Guardian Angel, turn 2 Irelia equip. Can maybe ready her in some situations, but usually not. That's fine. So I get to play my chosen champion that is completely overpowered on turn 2, potentially. This deck really likes going from 3 to 5, which is why we play Obelisk going first as well. It's not just the sneaky, it's also because the curve is so much cleaner. So yeah, it's probably enough for sneaky. Just creates blowout games. I guess I'll make another note. I'll defend its mid to late game value. There are many situations where your opponents will be afraid to hold a battlefield because Irelia can come in and like completely demolish that battlefield. In those situations, sneaking can just go ahead and conquer that. There are situations where your opponent wants you to have to commit your Draven or your Irelia to a battlefield, so they want you to attack into it, and then because they want to attack back with it or like rebuke it or something on their turn, or like charm it out or fight or flight it out, or just have more control on how they're approaching the combat. So there are a lot of situations like that where your opponent will pull back or won't have a battlefield that's contested, and you can just sneaky there, and it kind of screws with them because now your Irelia might still be in the back line, and you got your point. It's just really good, specifically with Draven. When my Irelia dies, the games where my Irelia dies, I play Draven, and then they pull back, and they're like, "Come on, bring your Draven in." I'm like, "Nope, sneaky deckhand." There you go. So immense value early game, and decent value in the mid game, honestly, in late game. So never really a dead unit. It does happen, obviously. The main flaw of this deck, I would say, is it's one of the reasons I'm not playing more creatures. I guess I'll go into that later. No, fine, I'll do it now. This video screwed. But yeah, one of the reasons I'm not playing more units is because I don't want to brick my draws mid game. It has happened already, even with just this unit count, where I look at my hand and I see like 1 spell 3 units, and I'm like, yeah, this is rough. This is really rough. One of the reasons Stellacorn is so important, because you want more draw power. So it does happen where, you know, you top deck a sneak and you're like, ugh. But yeah, it's a trade-off. I think it's worth it by far. So yeah, there's sneaky. Stellacorn Hoarder. Now, I have heard that some people are cutting Stellacorn Hoarder, and I do not really understand why. Number 1, it is really good when you're there are matchups where your opponent will play Obelisk when they're going first. It does happen. In that situation, and even in the mirror match, you're going to be starting on 4 runes. Turn 1 Stellacorn Hoarder is absurd. It has one, like, it is crazy. I can't, you guys would have to see how good it is for yourselves, but it is so difficult for your opponent to deal with turn 1 Hoarder. It's crazy. When you're going first on 2 runes, you go turn 1, maybe you even pass turn 1. Turn 2 Stellacorn, really good. So it fits well into those weird, awkward curves where you go 2 to 4 or start at 4, and it's really good. So there's that. Obviously, that's not the main reason we're playing it. The main reason is when I move, draw a card. When I move, draw a card is very, very powerful. It's really good when you're looking to get card advantage while conquering battlefields. So for example, you can on 5 mana, sometimes you might go, okay, my opponent has like a 3 on the battlefield, they can't really interact with me. I'm going to go Stellacorn, on guard, ready with legend, so sacrifice a rune, go in, draw a card, hide, fight or flight, pass turn. That's a turn. That is extremely strong. Like very, very powerful. That's why I love Fighter Flight, because it can be hidden for 0. So protect Stellar Coin for free, basically. Well, not really free because you're recycling, but you know what I mean. Like, it's good tempo. So really strong. It is pretty much necessary to have more card draw in the deck. The games I lose, specifically mirror matches, whoever has Stellar wins, usually. And the games I usually lose are the games where I'm very low on resources, or my opponent is drawing cards. So it's doubly bad. I have low cards, they have high card advantage. And this is the card that can make that up, essentially. Sometimes you might even play without your Irelia. This happened to me on my on-stream match, right? The feature match, where I had to play around Stellar Corn Hoarder instead of Irelia because I was so far behind from the blowout. I didn't play that game very well, honestly, just because I haven't played against Pit Crew the entire tournament, or I hadn't played against Pit Crew the entire tournament, so I just got blown out by Pit Crew. And then I was like, okay, I'm so far behind. I need a cheaper unit. I need a unit that can draw me cards. I need to accelerate now. So Hoarder plus, I think I did Hoarder on guard and started like trying to fight for Battlefield or something. I don't remember exactly. But then I had to play around Hoarder the entire match because I didn't have the runes to bring out the Irelia. So pretty tough. Sometimes that might happen, and it's honestly totally fine playing around Stellarcorn because you draw so sure the might's low, but it draws so many cards you're probably gonna have buffs for Stellarcorn, and that should be okay. So that's Stellarcorn. Last card of the main deck, Draven Audacious. 6 mana, 1 power, 6 might. Pretty good stats. Deflect. That's really good. That's what we want to see. And the first time I win in combat each turn, you score 1 point. When I die in combat, choose an opponent, they score 1 point. This is the best deck for Draven. Why? Because we can protect Draven from dying in combat. We have a lot of ways of doing that. We can hide a Fighter Flight. We can play Azanya's hidden, play Azanya's just straight up, equip Guardian Angel to it. You can also ride the wind out in some situations. That has happened where that was really backbreaking. There is a very funny situation that can happen. Did not happen to me the entire tournament, but you could have Draven sitting on a battlefield and your opponent attacks into it, and then you just ride the wind other side and conquer. Like, they have a unit there, or they're like attacking with a unit, for example, and you just ride the wind Draven, win combat and conquer, and you win the game from there, pretty much. Well, I guess, no, you would not win the game because the conquer effect. But you win the game if you're at 7, and that has happened where I am at 7, and then I go ride the wind and win combat, go to 8. Because you can't, one ruling you have to keep in mind with Draven is you cannot win from 6 from a combat win. So what will happen is you'll attack into a battlefield, you'll win combat first, so you'll score the point, then you'll conquer, and since you have to have scored both battlefields in the same turn to win the 8th point, it will just draw you a card instead. So it'll count as, conquer, you're at 7, it's checking, you'll draw a card. So that's something you really have to keep in mind. People will catch you on this. They might call a judge. And one of my opponents actually did not know this ruling, and they thought they would win from it. So they attacked into my Draven, and then they thought they would go from 6 to 8. It died in combat, and they did not, and I won the game. So very important ruling if you're playing against Draven or with Draven. So reason this card's so good. It is the main way you're going to be able to climb back into games from a point deficit. A lot of times with this deck, you're going to look at your opponent, they're going to be at 3 points, you're going to be at like 1, or sometimes even 0. And that is something that is pretty much impossible to come back from without Draven. It is possible, but it's less likely than if you just bust out the Draven and, you have a Guardian Angel, equip, ready, go in, win 2 points, and suddenly you're in a pretty decent spot, honestly. So yeah, Draven has been really crucial. It has won me a lot of games over the course of the tournament. A little bit less so during the end phase, so like top 8 didn't really come up. I don't even think I drew it, but maybe it would have been good. I don't know. Against Ezreal, seems like it could have been okay. It's a little bit tough to actually get it on the board. But there were many situations, like against Kaisa, against... I'm trying to think of other matchups I faced during the weekend. There were a bunch of like random, like tier 2 and below decks. Draven kind of farms those because they just can't deal with like the fact like they probably have to attack into battlefield, and then they can't really dodge combat as well, and they don't have like rebuke and stuff. I'm talking about like, I don't know what I faced, like set stuff like that. I can't quite remember. I have my full match breakdown on Twitter, but yeah, I can't really remember right now. So yeah, Draven, really good. I could kind of see some people leaning towards purple Yasuo. I think it's better in the mirror match. I think it has its pros and cons, obviously. But overall, I think Draven is like way better in the grand scheme of things. Like if you're looking at multiple different matchups, like the wide variety of matchups, the metagame we saw at Bologna, Draven's better. And if you're going to play Yasuo, I think you have to fundamentally change the deck. You probably have to play Siren. You probably have to play Tide Turner, which we'll talk about in a second. So quickly going over sideboard, because some of these cards are redundant. Third Defy kind of mentions my reasons for why Defy is good. I wanted a third one for those matchups. Flash, another way to dodge Rebuke, another way to escape from Bryn here, and another way to benefit off of Stelcorn Hoarder moving. So honestly, probably the card that I haven't really seen that much over the course of the weekend, to be honest. This might be replaceable with something else. Like I think third Rebuke might be the call, because it's a good card, but it wasn't like game changing. I would say I think this card was more game changing, to be honest. Hard bargain. Wouldn't mind having a second one, really. Card's so good. So hard bargain as repeat. Honestly, never came into play, I think. But you mostly want this to like counter things like Time Warp, and in the mirror, they might not have the energy to fight this off. So it will be like in a huge battle of spells, and then you end with like hard bargain. It's like, okay, that's really good. Having to pay only 2 and no power is really nice as well. It counters a spell unless its controller pays 2. This counters a lot of things. I honestly can't think of that much, but there are a lot of like matchups like Victor or Lux or like weird control decks where you're really happy to have this. And even Rebuke matchups, sometimes they just cannot afford to have that much up. They'll just have like 2 up. Or they'll tap out, play a hidden card, and then you can just counter that hidden card with hard bargain because they had to tap out, right? So super flexible, really good that this counters any spell, as long as they can't pay 2, obviously, but usually happens. Like against Kaisa, I won one game because they had to time warp, and I was like, hard bargain. Yeah, you spent 10 and 3 runes. See ya. Anyways, second Zonya's. This is either for the games where we're going first somehow. Like if my opponent got me with the double obelisk turn 1 or game 1, there will be a game where I'm starting on 2 runes. This helps a lot for those games, but that's not its main purpose. Its main purpose is just to have another way to protect Irelia and Draven in the matchups that play Call of the Week, essentially. That's its main purpose, really. Again, the hidden is nice. I kind of went over this. So yeah, just second copy of Zonya's, not too much to say about it. 2 rebukes. This is crucial. Again, I'm thinking about 3 now with Vex in the meta. But yeah, this card, great in multiple matchups. Very, very, very crucial in the mirror match. This won me the mirror match, for example. There was a spot where I rebuked their Irelia, and they couldn't replay it and move it into a battlefield. They only had 5. And this can also be really good against decks that play Darius, the 5-cost one that can ready itself and get +2. It's good against Ferris Forerunner decks. It's good against Watcher attacking, but you don't really need it. Like, a lot of times you don't really need this in those matchups because you can kind of buff your way out if you have Irelia on the board. Ferris Forerunner is kind of annoying, so I would consider this for Ferris Forerunner matchups. And obviously, the mighty Vex. You really want to rebuke that card. My goodness, I'm kind of traumatized by Vex, but yeah, it was due to lack of testing against it. I think now that I recall that match a little bit more, I think I did make a few misplays, as in like just lack of testing against it. I didn't really know what I was doing really. I was just playing really aggressively. And I think I was getting punished due to lack of knowledge of the matchup really, because I tested against regular Ezreal, but Vex just completely changes the dynamic totally. So yeah, Rubik really good. 2 Adaptatron. So this is my gear interaction. When I conquer, you may kill gear if you do buff me. And it is specifically really good in Irelia because you can ready it with like a buff spell or an equipment, like boots. It's another reason I like boots. Let's backtrack a little. Another reason I like boots is because since it's a gear, it will stick around and it will give you an easy access to a way to target a unit without spending another card, right? Sure, it costs 2 power because you have to pay the equip cost and then you have to pay the ready cost. But it's really nice to not have to like equip Guardian Angel, for example. Like I don't really want to ready a unit with a Guardian Angel because I want to keep that for my higher value units. So having the boots on the board, just being able to like equip that to Adaptatron, send it in, kill a gear in the mirror match is pretty good. There are a lot of like weird decks like Ornn that I was like, there are a lot of like random decks that if I hit without gear interaction, I feel like I would struggle greatly, like a Zir or something. So I really wanted to have at least 2 Adaptatrons. I started with 3, went down to 2, and honestly I was pretty happy with 2. Didn't really draw it that much, but when I did, it felt fine. If you have other ideas for gear interaction, probably just use those, but yeah, I think you should probably have a little bit of gear interaction or ways to kill gear, just because it's a pretty wide meta with the metal cards in contention. So yeah, man, that took a while. Hopefully I did a good job explaining things. If you have questions, just go ahead and drop them below. I might make another video covering things I missed or if things are not clear. Let's go over a few cards that didn't make the cut, and I think that'll be it. I will not be going into like matchup tech, sideboard. Actually, you know what? I will go into quick sideboarding tips, because why not? It might help for Vegas if you're going there. Should I do that first or card? No, let's do cards that didn't make the cut first. So first up on the list, we have Stacked Deck. This was in my deck when I started building it. I immediately threw 3 in. I was like, this card's broken, I gotta play it. And what I quickly realized is that Irelia is usually behind, right? Irelia is not that fast of a deck. And I kind of was just spending all my runes, or spending all my energy every single turn without Stack Deck. And the times where I could cast Stack Deck was more in the mid to late game of the match. Like, let's say turn like 4 or above. I'm not sure about that, but like, you know, later down the line, past the early game, then I could cast Stack Deck, and then it was good. But I just realized I could not take the time to cast Stack Deck early game. I had to tap out every time with the sneaky deck hands potentially on like going second, so I spend 3, and then on turn 2, again in some matchups I just bust out the Irelia, and most of the times I have to like fight for the board early game as well, so I was spending like my on guards and stuff. And if you end up playing Stack Deck, let's go back to my list for a second, you have to cut spells, right? And as I said, that is extremely difficult to do in this list. I don't know what to cut anymore now that I have the complete list. But you have to cut certain copies of spells, like 1 on guard, for example. And there are a lot of situations where you're going to look at your hand, you're going to see a Stack Deck, and you're going to be like, that could have been an on guard. That could have just been the spell I want. Now, sure, that could be the opposite, where it's another card, because obviously there are 3 Stack Decks, right? So it could be another copy of another card. So I think I had like -1 on guard. I probably had -1 defy, -1 something else. Can't remember exactly. I didn't have 3 boots at first either, so it could have been like the Siren or something. But yeah, essentially the problem is it's a tempo loss to play Stack Deck. I really wanted to have all my energy up to fight. I'd rather just have the spells in my hand, even if they're not the perfect spells, to just keep fighting for the board and make sure I don't lose more ground early game, because those games, when you're really far behind as Irelia, are actually quite difficult to come back into, because your opponent can go to 6, pull everything back, and then you can't really do that much. They're probably going to be able to force you to lose the battlefield you're trying to hold with Irelia, because usually they'll have a lot of might. So falling behind is really scary, and that's probably the main reason I'm not playing stack deck. You can play stack deck. It's not bad. I did play against an Irelia that had stack deck. But yeah, I'd rather just have the spells, whatever spells they are, in my hand. Whatever card it is, I'd rather have that in my hands than stack deck, just to be able to keep pushing out for as much mana efficiency or energy efficiency as possible. I use all my resources for active things instead of like trying to look for the specific card I might want in a specific situation. But again, you can play it. I just have no idea what you would cut, but you would have to trim a few of these 3 ofs. Not sure which ones. So if you can figure that out, go for it. Okay, now we have the Siren. So this card didn't make the cut for one reason. It's because of my general strategy. So I guess I'll go over the quick synopsis of the strategy, or the idea, or the way I see the deck, I guess, playing into most matchups. It's that you're going to be behind on points without Sneaky. Sometimes with Sneaky you can kind of make up for that, but that doesn't really matter. If you're ahead, that's even better. So if you are behind, which is a scenario I want to play around more, I'm going to need to hold battlefields. I think I mentioned that when I was describing a different card. The Siren wants you to move back, so to protect your units. Now, that's not always the case. You can use the Siren as like a ganking option, right? Where you move back and then you move in with Irelia. So Irelia awakens, move her back, move her into the other side. So can act like that, right? But the second strength of the Siren is to like move a unit in and then move it out to dodge combat. So like with Stellacorn, for example. Now, one of the reasons I don't want to do that is because I want to hold, as I said, I think. And this does not give you stats as well. That's part of the boost that I like a lot, is the +2. I mentioned that quite a bit, I think. So this does not help me hold as well as the boost. Not even close, actually. And it's not technically more mana efficient. I mean, it doesn't cost a power. That's big, for sure. It doesn't cost a power. But to activate this costs the same as me just playing the boots. Sure, I have to pay the extra rune, but I get +2. So essentially, that's the main reason. That I don't value the synergy with Stellacorn. I don't value protecting my lower value units like Poro. I don't care if Poro just goes in and I can't move it back and it just dies. I do not care. Stellacorn, I will try to protect with Fight or Flight, or I will just use a spell like On Guard and ready and go back to base. Like I can just do that. I can ride the winds. I could also just Zhonya's happen sometimes. Honestly, I don't care that much if Stellacorn dies, really. Because usually I can fight a little bit. Like they'll have to commit a little bit more. I already drew the card. It's not often I want it to die, but if it happens, I'm usually okay with that, honestly. Because they have to commit quite a bit. So I don't value the unit protection. I think boots are better at ganking. Like if you just value the move aspect for the +2. So this essentially would be my 4th copy of boots, and I just could not fit it in the deck. The other benefit I can think of is the fact that it costs 2, which means I can play on turn 1 when I have 2 runes. But again, we're not trying to do that. Like our deck, 50% of the time, I think, well, that's the math, right? You're going to lose die roll 50% of the time. That's how it should be, right? I hope. And going second, I can just play boots on turn 1. I don't need to play, like I have 3 runes. So might as well just play 3 costs card, right? So that doesn't matter. So it only matter if I have 2 runes. So game 1 against decks that don't have Obelisk, where I'm not opening Obelisk, I open Dreaming Tree. I start, and then I have to find Siren and play it on turn 1. That's pretty good. But that's not going to happen often enough for me to justify playing Siren over boots. But if you want a 4th copy of boots, this will be it, essentially. Didn't make the cut. Okay, now for Tide Turn. I think this will be the last one I'll cover. I didn't really test much of Purple Yasuo, I'm going to be honest. When I was building the deck, it clicked really quickly with me. I wanted my playstyle to be what the final deck list ended up being. Like I quickly found my playstyle with this deck, and it did not involve Tide Turner and Siren and potentially Purple Yasuo. So yeah, Tide Turner. Very good card. Honestly, I don't fault people for playing it. I think the card is good. The only problem for me was that it was kind of competing for sneaky deckhand slots. And one of the ways I view the deck is I don't, again, as I mentioned, I don't want too many units in the deck because I don't want to brick my mid-game draws. Now, this is less of a brick than you might think because you can hide it. You can use it as a ganking tool, but again, since I have 3 boots, it's like, if I already have boots, it doesn't do anything, basically. Stellacorn synergy, that's pretty good. That's probably the main thing I would consider with this, is Stellacorn synergy. But, again, if I don't find Stellacorn, it isn't really that good of a card. The hidden aspect to it is mostly a bluff, because usually you're not going to have another unit to actually swap with it. Usually you're not going to have that. So what it's going to be is a Fight or Flight or Zhonya's bluff, and then you reveal it, and you get 2 might. And that's not great, but it's not bad either. So I don't really have like a strong opinion on not playing this. It's just that I really valued Sneaky Deckhand. I think it competes for Sneaky Deckhand's spot in the main deck. And then if you think about it, since I really want Sneaky Deckhand, and I think most people should be playing it, you'd have to play Tide Turner in the main deck, move Sneaky to the side, and then you're losing out on the toolbox aspect of the sideboard, right? So yeah, there's also that to consider. Like having a quote-unquote sideboard card, which it's not the case here, but potentially a sideboard card in the main deck already is a huge bonus for me in terms of deck building. I usually try to do that when I'm thinking of a specific meta. I like kind of like pre-board the deck, or like try to play a card that's like just kind of good enough to play in the main deck, just to free up sideboard slots. That's something I've done in the past in Magic, for example. So yeah. Really good card. It's very good if you're starting on 2 runes. Not as good as Poro, obviously. But it's good to have a turn 1 play in Irelia. It gives you that tempo advantage. So that's good as well. But as I mentioned, I'm trying not to start on 2 runes, and it doesn't happen too often. Because your game 2 and 3, it's never happening, basically. And your game 1, it's happening 50% of the time. So I was gambling on that. It worked out in my favor. So I kind of forgot to tackle sideboarding. I just ended the video and forgot about it. So let's quickly go over sideboarding. So, okay. First of all, if you are starting on 3 or more runes guaranteed, I cut Lonely Poro. That's the first one that comes out. This was honestly mostly for game 1 and specific matchups like Rek'Sai and Victor and Lux. So then you might want to keep it where you need the creatures. But it's mostly just to have more plays going first on Dreaming Tree. So Poro usually out. In usually guaranteed hard bargain usually. I mean, obviously they need spells, but most of the matchups I'm thinking of are matchups where they have at least something I can counter here. So probably hard bargain in. If Rebuke is a thing, Flash. If Bryn here is a thing, probably Flash as well. So Flash Rebuke and Bryn here. Second Zhonya is for similar matchups to Poro, but then you would not board Poro. So you keep Poro and you'd board in the second Zhonya. So that would be matchups like Rek'Sai. Against Victor, you can probably cut Fight or Flight. Stuff like that. So maybe you'd keep Ride the Wind and cut like a few Fight or Flights. Maybe like cut 2. Actually, Charm is pretty bad against Victor. Charm is good against Rek'Sai. Charm is honestly okay against Lux, depending on their list, because you want to charm the Lux, but you don't want to. I mean, it's just the Lux and maybe if they're playing Echo. So that's a tough call. You need to kind of figure out their list from game 1. If they have Echo, Charm is good. So yeah, second Zhonya for those matchups where they're trying to blast. Honestly, pretty good against Kai'Sa as well. So against Kai'Sa, I would do like 1 Defy. Actually, maybe I would not do Defy. probably just hard bargain Zanyas. These two. 2 Poro out, hard bargain Zanya in. And if you think they have like smokescreen and stuff, Defy in as well. And you would probably cut, let's see, against Kaisa, you don't want to cut this. Actually, no, I think you don't board in the Defy. I don't really see a cut that's that easy. A Ride the Wind's really good against Kaisa. Yeah, that's probably fine. 2 Defy, 1 bargain. Zanya. That's fine. Against Draven, you don't really care much about the Zanya. I might even cut the Zanya. I've done that in the past. And then against Draven, I board in. So against Miracle, you want 3rd Defy. I think against Regular, you do not want 3rd Defy. So I'd play like Flash Hard Bargain, cut the Poros. Against Draven, if you think they're going to keep in the Ferris Forerunners, I actually like boarding in a Rebuke, or sometimes even 2. And I would not cut Ride the Wind, because again, that interaction with the fan. And let's see. So for now, we're at 2, right? We're Flash Bargain, Poro out. Okay, correct. Zanya is not that bad. Like, to have 1, it's not that bad because it's a mix-up with Fight or Flight, so I kind of like that. I'm trying to think if I usually just board in. No, honestly, yeah, so it's just on feeling. Like, if you feel like maybe game 2, you see them having Ferris Forerunner, and then you're like, okay, I'll Rebuke instead of Zanya's. Otherwise, these are like never cuts. Let me think about the rest. Yeah, that's it, right? Yep, that's it. So I don't actually have a sideboard guide. I just have it in my mind, so I'm trying to recall it. Yeah, it's probably like 2 Defy, because you want to counter like their Ride, their Wind, their Fight or Flight sometimes. Yep, it's pretty simple, honestly. Mirror match, 2 Rebuke in, Defy in, Hard Bargain in, Zanya out, Poro out. So 3 out. So we have 3 out. This is 3 already, so we need 1 more slot for bargain. Oh yeah, Draven out. I kind of like keeping 1 Draven in. Not gonna lie, because sometimes you can get some value out of it. It's fairly rare, but you could cut both. I like keeping 1 in. It's probably not optimal. I just like sometimes your Irelia dies. Actually, it does happen. Some crazy people keep in Charm in a matchup. I cut 3 Charm immediately. There you go. That's the cut right there. So you can maybe keep 1 in as a weird Fight or Flight, and sometimes you're able to kill Irelia, like very rarely. So maybe let's do cut 2 of this, cut 2 of this. Actually kind of like Zanya. It depends. See, there are so many situations where each card can be good. That's the tricky part. You kind of have to like feel out how your opponent's playing, and then think about if this card fits your opponent's playstyle. Like if they're just attacking in and you're like, okay, I just want a Zanya's Hourglass to just like save my, I don't want to commit my Irelia and I'll just like go back to base, then it's pretty good, honestly. So let's do, usually I just do -3 Charm, -2 Poro, that's 5 slots. You go 2 Rebuke, 1, 1, 1. So these are good. And this comes in, but it really depends on if you're going first or second. Let's say we both start Dreaming Tree. Obelisk of Power, you're going first. Actually, don't board this in. Or, well, I have 1. No, okay, because I said I cut 1 Draven, right? So I have 1. I don't really, you can board in second Zanya, that's fine. But I like 1 Adaptatron instead of Draven. And if I'm going second, so on the game where they're playing Obelisk going first and I'm going second, so I have 4. That's the game where I actually either you cut the Dravens entirely, because you can always do that. I'm just keeping it in because I think it's all right, but it's honestly probably worse than Adaptatron. I would just cut a Sneaky. That's what I did. I cut like 1 Sneaky and I just played 1 Adaptatron. So I played both Adaptatrons when I'm going second, because I start on 4. So then I can start Hoarder or Adaptatron or Sneaky, and it's fine, right? But honestly, if I'm being totally honest here, I think you just got the Dravens. I haven't like tested extensively in the mirror. I just felt like the way the games were playing out, there could be situations where I win combat. With like attack into like bait out buffs into like Rebuke or something, and like I know I have Defy up, so if they try to not so fast, I Defy it, and then if they Defy it, maybe I have like another Defy or Hard Bargain. Like there are situations like that that could happen. And it's pretty good if you can protect the Draven behind it, but it's probably not. The more I'm thinking about it, it's probably not worth it. It never came up. I never drew the one Draven, so maybe I'd just rather have Adaptatron, not gonna lie. So honestly, just cut both Ravens, play 2 Adaptatron. Maybe to, like, when you're going second, cut one deckhand for like the Zanyas, literally bringing the whole sideboard. But yeah, so that'll be the mirror. What else? Trying to think here. Kaisa, and I already went over Kaisa, right? Just bargain plus, yeah, I went over Kaisa. What else? I guess I can do like the harder yellow matchups, like Rek'Sai and stuff. So Rek'Sai, Zanya in, Defy absolutely in. So Zanya, Defy, bargain in. And we're gonna cut actually, this is the tricky part. I don't remember exactly what I haven't faced Rek'Sai in a while. Oh yeah, didn't I say Ride the Wind? Yeah. Probably, I mean, Ride the Wind's so good in some spots. If you're okay in a spot where you're okay against Rek'Sai and you have Ride the Wind, it's so good. Because they can't really interact with it. But you're gonna have to assume that you're losing. So I think you would probably end up cutting Ride the Winds. Also, Sneaky Deckhand, if you're going first, it's actually not good. Funny enough. Because you go, so you have 3 runes, right? If you go Sneaky on point, they accelerate Rek'Sai, you're screwed. I've lost so many games with that. So Sneaky loses some value. It's still good though. But I wouldn't be surprised if cutting, like, so we have how many in right now? We need 3 in. We need 3 cards in. So with 3 cards in, and right now I cut nothing. That's not a good sign. Yeah, I think what I was doing is actually cutting Sneaky. I think I remember that. Even though it is a creature. Well, it depends again if you're going first or second. I think if you're going second, they go first, they play 2-drop. Yeah, I think it's fine. If you're going second, it's okay. Because then they play 2-drop, and then you play Sneaky on points. And then if they accelerate Rek'Sai, they cannot use their leader. I mean, it's the same for the other way around, but it's more backbreaking because they're going to have, they are going to have, actually, no, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Now that I think about it, it's pretty bad. I don't know why I kind of lost, even though I tested quite a bit against Rek'Sai. It's eluding me right now. See if I can figure this out. Yeah, I think Sneaky is just bad, honestly. I think Sneaky is just bad in the matchup. It's probably just cut it. Makes sense to me. And I think that's what I was doing now that I think about it. Because I wouldn't want to cut this, wouldn't want to cut this, don't want to cut that. I want more Defy. It could be Fight or Flight. Like I think Fight or Flight is a little bit on the weaker side in the matchup, but it can be pretty decent for like pushing their Phoenix back or pushing them off a point when they want to conquer to activate their legend. So this is not too bad. I do think Ride the Wind's really good against them. Or maybe you just play Sneaky and base. But still. Okay. I'll give you a few options. Cut all the Sneakies. Cut a few Fight or Flights, because I think it's fine. So probably one of these two. The rest I don't really see being a thing, really. Yeah. Okay. So that's Rek'Sai. That's not the case for Victor, though. I think against Victor, you really want Sneaky. So against Victor, we do... Yeah, you cut... Against Victor, you cut Charm. Charm out. Charm out's probably... Maybe in Fight or Flight. I'm trying to think. Like, Fight or Flight's not good either. These cards are not great against Victor, I think. Charm can be good. Maybe keep 1 or 2 Charms and you cut a few Fight or Flight. Honestly, I've not tested against Victor. I'm not going to lie. I just think the matchup's probably fine. Like, Lux is way harder. I haven't tested that much against Lux either. So, these two are your candidates for cuts. I would not cut creatures against Victor, so that's not possible. I'd play Zanya's, I'd play another Defy, and I'd play Hard Bargain. So these 3 coming in, 3 total out of these 2 out. Your choice. I think Ride the Wind's pretty good for Stellacorn, and then you move out the... Yeah, that's fine. So that'll be that for those 2. Is there anything else I'm thinking of? I'm not thinking of. Kaisa, Irelia, Draven... I mean, there are a lot of like weird tier 2 decks, but honestly, those are usually Irelia favorite. I'm not gonna lie. Well, if there's something if there's a matchup you want to know about, just comment. I'll probably answer that. But yeah, is there anything else I want to mention before I end this video? Because I probably forgot some stuff. You can just ask me. I'll probably cover it. I'll probably cover it in a different video. But again, I'm very exhausted here. I thought I would be in better shape today to record the video. I was just kind of putting it off until I was like very clear of mind here. But I figured it might be helpful to some people to hear about my thoughts, even though, yeah, again, I'm not 100% there. But yeah, tips, general tips: don't break too many runes early game. Remember, Irelia Blade Dancer can give +1 might to Irelia on defense by buffing and then ready. So remember that. Remember that Irelia still gets the +1 from you choosing her, even if the spell gets countered. What else? Remember that Hidden Fighter Flight counters at a battlefield spells targeting your units, so you can react with Fighter Flight and move out. I mentioned that, but I'll re-mention it again. What else? Some tips, random tips. Keep in mind, something to not forget, this never happened to me, but if you have 2 units in base, which can happen, please remember that this only gives +1 or +2 if you're targeting Irelia, but it will not give the like flat +2. So don't make the mistake of having 2 units in base and being like on guard, and then realizing, and then your opponent's gonna be like, nope, that's +1, and you're like, ugh. Yeah, so that's something big as well. Let me think about other interactions. Reaver's Row. So one of the reasons Draven, here's another reason Draven is so good that I forgot to mention. Dravens, like actual Draven Legend, plays Reaver's Row. I have won almost, I think I've won, I would say every single match on Reaver's Row that I drew Draven in, because they cannot deal with it. All you do is you just move Draven into Reaver's Row, they move back, you score 2, you score 1 from winning combat. So you're getting a taste, they're getting a taste of their own medicine. I love that feeling. And then they can't really kill it because they're not playing actual kill spells or even damage spells. Like they have Falling Star, but it's so risky they can't do it. Usually it's protected by Guardian Angel. They'll go in sometimes to fight off Draven. You're like, okay, I'll move back in, score 2 points. It's just like, and then usually if you have boots, like you move back with Reaver's Row, go in other side, conquer that, ready Draven with something, move other side, and then you want to end on Reaver's Row every time. And I'm telling you, it's just, they cannot do anything. As long as you have not so fast for rebuke. Sure, they can rebuke, But again, that's why we have 3 not so fast. And also, I would have a bargain in the board, and I would have flash. So I have like 5 ways to counter rebuke, and even hiding Fight or Flight is so nice because then they might not even try to interact with your Reaver's Row Draven. Or if they do, you might even win combat on their turn. Sometimes I just stay. I'm like, I'm staying. And then I actually win combat because I have like a hidden Fight or Flight or something. Like if they're that desperate that they have to do it. So yeah, that's gonna do it, I think, for the video. It's been long enough. I kind of forgot to mention this at the start, but I guess I'll probably just add a section about this, just about subscribing to the channel since it's new. It'll help out a lot, and liking the video, of course. Got to get this channel started on the right foot, right? There probably won't be that many videos on this channel until they create a digital client, which should happen eventually. But yeah, might cover a few things Irelia based, and we'll see. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video, or on X. See ya.